Alright, hi everyone. So in this video we're going to learn all about drawing in Adobe Animate. So without further ado, let's start. So when you first open up Adobe Animate, you'll see this screen loading up. It does have some tutorials for you to actually click and go through, so I do hope that you had tried your hand in testing out how Animate works by following the videos. Those can be quite helpful. I'm going to show you how I draw in Adobe Animate. So I'm going to create a new document here. It's going to ask, what size do you want? We just want our whatever size actually. So let's see, do we have a setting here? I'll just get the action script setting. We can always change these values after the fact, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to say create now. Alright. So that's my new document, and let's bring in the file that we're going to trace, the design that we plan to clean up. So I'm going to go to File, Import Stage, and we'll browse to the folder where I keep that image. So this is the fin character turnaround. It's quite rough. It's basically a bitmap that I got off the internet. So we're going to use this to trace over. Alright, so the document is quite big. We can do one of several things. If you want to make the document bigger, you can do that, or you can do the reverse. Select that. We're going to resize this image. So we're going to select this, hit Q, and you'll see that we have this transformation tools whereby you can actually scale it up and down. You can actually rotate it if you wanted to, which we're not going to do. You can also skew it however way you want. So that's the free transform tool. The shortcut is Q. So there it is on the left. As I hover my mouse, you'll see the shortcut is Q. So I'm just going to scale it down. So with that selected, I'm going to hold Shift and pull the corners down like that and make it fit in the window. Let's just make it slightly bigger there. Alright, I'm going to fit everything, all of the canvas into my screen. I'll just double click the hand tool and that fits everything in there. Alright, cool. We can do other things to this image if you wanted to. I decide why not. So I will actually go inside of this image, which I couldn't. So I'm going to break it apart. So what I'm going to do is, we are going to break apart this image. Let's see, there it is. Modify, break apart. Control B is the shortcut. So once you break it apart, this is what you get. Basically something to select, which is the bitmap. So I'm just gonna select the ones that I do not want, which is the top part. Do a marquee selection and hit delete. Alright, cool. And we're gonna select everything again, and let's just Control G, which basically turns that into a group. Yeah, so that now is a group. I'll just put it down to at the middle here. And while we're at it, why don't we lock this layer so that we don't accidentally select it. I'm going to create a new layer here by clicking the plus button. So you get a new layer. So everything that we're going to draw is going to sit onto this layer. Why don't we rename things, shall we? So I'm going to double click that, and this will be my reference that I plan to trace. And in layer 2, double click that, we're going to say this is our character turnaround. So all of our drawing will sit on this layer. Okay, we can't do, let's see, basically it renamed for me. So it kind of, I use a spacebar, so it says you can't use a spacing, so they just simply put an underscore there. Alright, cool. Let's start. I'm going to do the first one here. For drawing things, if your reference is actually black and white, it's a good idea to use red so that you can see the lines over the reference. I do notice several things. I see there's a lot of stuff here which I don't really need. So I'm just gonna select my properties here and pull it out first, because I don't think I need all that. So I'm gonna minimize all that and leave this properties window hanging. Let's see if I can resize it. Alright, it's just gonna hang, or maybe just make it float like that. Yeah, so these double arrows actually collapse it and make it float, so I can get it again whenever I need it. So let's draw. I'm gonna use the line tool for this purpose. So the line tool, what it does is it basically creates a stroke wherever you click and drag, like so. As we mentioned earlier, maybe it's a good thing to actually have this as a red stroke, so that it will be much more clearer what you're drawing. The way the line tool works is, of course, wherever you click and drag, that will form a line. Say I do a line like that, what you get inherently is you're crossing over the other line. So using the selection tool, which is that one, shortcut V, I can actually select separate lines now and probably move it away or curve it like what you see here, or select that and move it away, or double click that and move the whole thing like that, make it cross over onto another line, pull the ends to actually form that kind of line, make a curve that way, and so on. Also, I can actually use this sub selection tool. Shortcut is A. So with that, I can click and drag and I'll get a point, and then I can move it, I can manipulate it by point, I can change the tangents to give separate looks to the line, move 2 points at one go, or hold shift to select more points and hover your cursor over a point and move it, or use the arrows to actually move it. Yeah, so we can certainly do that kind of thing. So you can select more than 1 point maybe and move it. It's a bit tricky. You just need to, I think there's a bug to it, so you gotta kind of move it first. Or let's see if I can do it properly. I'll just select this and that. Let's see if it doesn't seem to want to move at the same time. Let's see. What if I did this and hit the arrow keys? And let's see if I can move it. Okay, so it's a bit tricky to move 2 points at a time, but you certainly can. I think it's just a bug with this thing. Now I can do it. Okay, I don't know what happened there, but basically you can move 2 points at one time by clicking and dragging. It sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. So that's something. See, it's working now, and now it doesn't. So it's certainly something you gotta test out to give a feel. But that's basically the line tool. There's another way to draw as well, which is this guy, the shape tools. And we have rectangle, oval, and the polystar. Normally we'll just use a rectangle and oval. The primitive tools, they're there for a reason. You have more options to it. We're not going to use it in this video, just to keep things simple. So the rectangle tool, if you choose that, if you click and drag, you're gonna get basically a rectangle, and it has a fill in it. Why? Because we set here blue to be the color blue to be our fill. So if I change this to none, if I click and drag now, what I get is simply just the rectangle stroke. So you can choose to have a fill or not. Even if you did have a fill, you can select the fill and delete it, and you still get the rectangle stroke. Or, for instance, say you already have a rectangle with a fill, you can double click the stroke and cut it, and you're left with just the fill. So you can do it either way. Yeah? Okay, let's start. We're gonna start with the head, I think. So I'm gonna use the rectangle. Do that. I think the stroke width is quite thick, So I'm gonna open up my properties here, and you'll see that there are options to actually make it a bit smaller. This all depends on how big your document is. Because I resized the whole thing down to be that big, the stroke of 1 isn't going to do it. So I might need to change this value to something smaller, like 0.5 or 0.75 maybe. Let's go 0.75. That seems okay. Alright, seems like it's the right thickness. So let's just draw this, shall we? Oh, something's a bit off, but it's okay. What I'm trying to say is it's a bit, you see that it kind of sticks and tries to make things straight and tries to snap to it. That has something to do with snapping. So if you go to view snapping, you see that there are many options. It's snapping to snap a line, which makes things straight like what you see. Snap into guides. If you go over another object, it will snap to the objects, to the pixels, and so on. I like this to be pretty much zeroed out, like unchecked, all of it. So we have no snapping at all. If I do want it later, I'll just switch it on. So the ones that I use a lot is snap to objects. So Ctrl+Shift+U is the shortcut. Okay. So now if I pull out, it'll be a free thing, much more freer. Alright, so let's do this. I'm going to use my selection tool and move it. I'll use my V tool, the selection tool, to select the corners and move it. And just whenever you see, if you hover on a stroke, you'll see that there's that curvy thing going on. So what it means is you can actually curve this out to however way you see fit. That's a useful thing to do. It allows you to quickly produce that kind of shape. Alright, so that's pretty much done, and now we have this. I could probably move this a bit down. I use my shortcut A to go to my sub selection tool, the white arrow, bring it down a bit. Okay, cool. So we need several points here. You can do one of two things. If you're new to this, maybe you can cut things like that. So the line tool is useful to cut things as well. Observe. So I already cut it. Now if I move that up, see, now it acts as if it's a different stroke. So I can, with that logic, I can do the same thing here and do the same thing here, and then after the fact you just delete what you don't need and it'll go away. Alright, so then I use my selection tool, bring it down here. Sometimes it just doesn't give you that extra control with the black arrow, the selection tool. So I like to go to my sub selection tool sometimes. So with that shortcut A, I can actually go and manipulate, tweak the tangents like so. So that allows me to control the tangents and change the look of it however way I see fit. So I can select that one, and I'm going to move both at the same time. Use my arrow keys because I selected that point already, so move it down there and just move that tangent and you get that. Maybe this thing could be down here a bit further, and let's just do that. Move the tangent here, the handles there, and we're good. Alright, so the idea is to produce a clean drawing, a cleanup of the guide, of the reference. If I hide this layer, you can review what you draw. And like I mentioned earlier, we want a clean thing. You don't really have to follow all the single nooks and crannies. Make it just a smooth thing. If you kind of see that it's trying to produce that kind of line, because this was hand drawn, so it might not be clean enough, so you clean it up. Yeah, all right, cool. Okay, that's done. Let's do the next part. I'm gonna use an oval for this. So with the oval tool, I'm gonna draw from here, and you'll notice that it starts to grow and grow over there. That might not be what I want, So I click and drag. I haven't let go, click and drag. If you hold alternate, it will start to grow from the center. So that can be more useful. So I hold alternate while clicking and dragging to get that kind of look. It's not there yet, so I'm gonna select all of it, double click, and just move it in place using my arrow keys. That's pretty much okay. You don't really have to, like I say, if you want to follow that line, that's fine, but I decide that's okay enough. I'm fine with it. Get my oval now. I have my stroke to be red. I'm gonna do something else here. We're gonna do the eyes, yeah? So what I think I'll do is I'll change the fill to black. Change my stroke to nothing. So if I draw, I'm just gonna get a black thing, a black circle. So let's do this. I'm gonna zoom in a bit, use the Z tool and click and drag to go in. That's the furthest I can go. It's a good idea to make my document bigger, perhaps, but that's okay. So I'll get my oval tool again. I'm gonna alternate and hold alternate and make it draw from there. Or to make it more clear, let's draw from here. So I hold alternate and it's gonna draw that eye, but it's giving me like a squash or a flattened eye. So to make things uniform, you can hold shift at the same time. So it's alternate and shift and click and drag, so you get that kind of thing. So I'm gonna go to my selection tool and we're gonna move it in place. So we have an eye. That's another eye. So what you can do is you can select that eye, hold alternate and click and drag, and it'll copy that eye and put it onto the other side. That is just simply a line. So we can use the line tool, make sure the stroke is black or red depending on what you're going after. I'll say red. Maybe later I'll change everything to black. And since we're tracing, we'll just keep it red. So we have the face. Cool. We're gonna do the body now. But before we do that, here's a tip. Remember at the very start of this video that I did say if you click and if you click and drag and go over line like so, what happens is it's going to combine with that line. It doesn't seem like it's combining, but if I double click that now, I'm gonna get the whole line. So now it all becomes like a single thing. That might not be useful for some reason, so I don't want to do that. So here's a tip. You can actually make everything separate. So we know the head should be separate from the body when it comes to animation, because we're going to turn everything into symbols later. So I'm going to show you how you can actually turn everything here. So I'm going to click and drag like so. We used this one earlier. It's Ctrl G for grouping. So we can group this. So now it is a separate thing which can be manipulated all in one go. And I can still edit it by going double click and going inside, and now we have all of our separate elements. I can, if you see here, we are inside of this group. I can go back to scene 1 and I'm back at scene level and I can continue drawing. So I'm gonna draw that part now. We can do one of two things. I can actually just draw, because I want to show you the method of just drawing. So I think Finn here, he looks like a rectangle. So I'm just going to get my rectangle. I have a fill set here, so I'm just going to say no fill. We have a fill, we're going to delete that fill. So we have a rectangle here. Okay, let's just shape it accordingly. It actually goes right down to the bottom, so let's just bring it down here. That one goes there. Oop. That's better. Everything's so big now. I basically double click the whole thing and we get the whole thing. Alright, cool. We're gonna curve that. because if you see like it should be a nice smooth thing, just make it all nice and smooth from top to bottom. That seems okay. Just for the sake of making it standard, we'll just keep it kind of the same height like that. Alright, seems okay. Alright, we're gonna cut things up. Alright, so I was looking, this is Animate, it's not Flash, so I was like having trouble to find where things were. Alright, so if you want it to be super big, you can double click that and you get the whole thing up there. This is basically a window, and if you see this button in the center, you can actually restore that. And if you want, you can actually attach it up here again. So I don't know about you, if you like it to be nice and huge, you can always double click that, detach it and double click it, so you get a really nice view. Some people like this, but I was trying to look for my tools, and this can be useful for you. So let's go back to this setting. So we're back here. We were drawing this, and let's just cut things up nicely. I'm gonna use the line tool. Okay, before we do that, I'm gonna use a different tool. Remember our selection tool? Here's a line, and we need to cut it up like that. So how do we do that? One way of doing it is to actually use the selection tool, shortcut V, and you can, if you hover on a line, on an edge, it's going to kind of curve it if you kind of just pull it like that, isn't it? So I'm going to undo, Ctrl Z. Instead of that, you can actually hold Control while you pull that line out. So you see that now it creates a sharp edge instead. So that can be useful. So I hold Control and pull it out. So you create more points to shape this line. So very quickly you can have something like this. And let's just shape it nicely now. That goes there. And we're just going to curve that. That should be curved. I'm going to use my selection tool and move it up like so. Alright, stop selection by the way, A, and there. Alright, so going forward, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep on drawing this character from the front view. I'll continue drawing the outlines in red, get that done. Along the way, I'll teach you how you can work faster or more efficiently by using groups, and how you can approach drawing lines and whatnot. So that's in the next video. See you then.